The question is, are artists fucked up human beings? I'm going to tell you now. I think yes, and we'll leave it there.
We definitely got to get to that.
What's going down? Welcome back to the MEC podcast. It's just a different type of music business podcast. I can come up with a better tagline. You can come up with a better tagline. But we appreciate you tuning in regardless of the tagline, because you know what it is that we speak on in these podcasts. So having said that, you also know what it is when it comes to music distribution. You need music distribution. We can get it to you for free. TwoLost.com. Use the code MEC and get 3 free months of premium music distribution. Stop letting your music just gather dust on a hard drive. Go to TwoLost.com. Use the code MEC. It supports us. It supports your music career. And it allows fans to connect with music that they want to connect with. So stop withholding that from the world. Don't be greedy. How's everyone feeling today?
Feeling good. Still seeing a lot of people that don't know. I think somebody referenced Erinn as the person with the blue hat or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Who's that person with the blue hat? I don't know if that's exactly what he said, but again, I think we should definitely kick these off with a little intro or a reintroduction, or it might be a fresh introduction to people that aren't familiar with our faces or voices. So we always want to share some wins to kick some things off, to let you guys know that we actually do stuff in the entertainment industry, not just the music industry, but the entertainment industry. So Erinn, what's your win from the past week?
I mean, last week I referenced how I had to get my attitude together. So my win is that I stuck with my attitude adjustment, which I'm now calling my gratitude adjustment. I stuck with it. I've been getting up early, going to the gym. It snowed last night in Nashville, and I have 5 events in Austin this weekend. I was supposed to fly out today. So even though I had meetings literally from 11 till 9:30, I still got on the 9:30 flight. Almost missed it. They paged me and I was like in slides trying to get there. So my win is that I got to Austin. I landed very late last night because the plane got delayed because of ice. But I'm here this morning, so I'm grateful. Out here winning. One of our events is at close to 1,000 RSVPs, so I'm excited. All of my interns are onboarded and showing up. I just started an internship program at UT, so I'm tired, but I'm looking forward to a good week. I'm like living in the iteration of things that I've always prayed for, so I'm grateful.
You got an intern for the MEC? We might need an intern soon.
No, I interviewed 11 interns and only 5 of them turned up, but still, I think that's dope, you know?
Hey, that's young people today. It's hard to find good young help. You guys are wilding, and it's not just, old people screaming at young people. I think there really is something in the water these days, but we can talk about that on another podcast. Payne, what you got for us today?
I had a great week. It was funny too, because I was on a vacation, which I never take, but it was
nice.
Yeah, I know, right? But throughout all that, I managed to go from a really frustrating week where I was getting ghosted by rappers to 3, maybe 4 exclusive beats sold over that weekend. So I was like, oh, that sets me up for a great week. Felt good. Some of them are custom. Some of them were straight off the DJPayne1beats.com website. But regardless, felt good. It feels good to be appreciated by artists, and then also just continue to be confirmed on this path to a music career.
Nice. Payne, where'd you go?
Chicago.
Nice. Chi-Town. Used to live in Chicago.
Great city to eat in.
Yeah, for about right
you
before.
You said what, Erinn?
I said it's a great city to eat in. That's one of my favorite
that was really
cities
that was the motivation for the whole trip. It was eating. So we went to Bridgeport and just ate.
Nice. Yeah, I was actually living in Chicago when we started Funk Volume. I hadn't moved back to LA yet. I moved to Chicago after business school when I worked for Deloitte. So I was there for about a year and some change. Let's see. Yeah. So for me, man, lots of wins in the past week. I don't even know where to start. I think the biggest thing is Ja and I are starting a creator program for up and coming creators that will invest in, provide resources for distribution. We'll put the content actually on Ja's channel so that people can get more exposure. The hope is people can get to a point where they're known enough, have enough momentum to be like their own full-time creator. So I'm kind of looking at it as kind of like a record label, as we're thinking through kind of what the split should be, the YouTube royalty split should be on the back end, what's fair, what are the different variables we need to consider, what should we call this? But ultimately, it is kind of like a record label for the YouTube space, because there's a lot of talented folks, and we have a lot of experience now that I think that if we bring our resources and strategic guidance to, and bring some creators together that can collaborate more and talk through ideas and things like that, we can create some dope content, but also kind of raise like this next crop of creators and get them rocking. So that's probably what I'm most excited about. We also are starting a new lunchtime sessions here at Two Lost, where it's going to be live performances on a monthly basis. It'll be a new content series that we do, so people can see some of the dope artists that we have that are on Two Lost. So that's pretty dope. But it's definitely different from January. January was a shit show. February, a lot more wins and momentum. So I'm excited, but also excited about this episode of the podcast, because we got a shitload of topics lined up that we hopefully can get through all of them. But Erinn, what do we got for them?
I just want to say I'm frustrated because somebody asked what I did, and I made like a lengthy post about what I do and listed out a lot of stuff. And I was like, yeah, hopefully this is helpful. And I just looked, and YouTube has deleted my comment. So shout out to you.
Deleted it?
Yeah, because it did post for sure, because I saw it, unless Payne hated it and deleted it, or you deleted it.
No, I didn't touch it.
No, I'm joking. Like that, because he was like YouTube. No, because I saw it post. And because, you can I get notifications when I post a comment. So it got to my notification, and I just went on there to see it because I was trying to see the comment about the blue hat, and it's not on there at all. And it was a long comment. So I'm not happy about that, but whatever. Is
that person's comment still there?
Yeah. The comment is still there. And they were being kind. They were like, hey, I'm not trying to be rude. I really like what Erinn's doing. Like, what does she do? And I was like, oh, boom. Damn.
I thought it because I hate it when people like will post a comment in response to something, and then I reply to that comment, and instead of admitting that they were wrong or having a mature conversation, they just delete it. That shit is annoying.
No, they didn't delete
a mature conversation from a YouTube disagreement, though.
Oh no! I mean,
you're right. See, let's just admit that Dame is as naive as I am. What I think,
no, you won't find me in the YouTube comments like that.
You're bright-eyed as well, Dame.
Nah, you don't find me in the YouTube comments like that. I definitely have retired every once in a while if I'm feeling like entertaining myself, but yeah, I don't respond to many.
On our new page, I feel like people are super respectful and very open. But no, this person was genuinely asking. He was like, hey, I rock with what you're doing. Like, but what do you do? Like, he was rocking with my opinions, but was like, what do you do? So I'm going to go through and probably give a shorter answer. But I was proud of the length that I went to be thorough with this guy. But what we're going to do today, I'm going to run down the topics so y'all know what's coming up. And we're going to try to move through more topics a little bit faster, give y'all some hot takes and keep it moving just so we have some clickbait or something like that. So we're going to talk about Kendrick's Super Bowl performance. And then after that, we're going to talk about Mustard. So naturally, after that, we're going to talk about Drake streaming on Spotify. We are going to hit L.A. Reid exposing the industry for a lack of black labels. We're going to hit on the question, does 50 Cent need therapy? And then hopefully we'll get to this. And the question is, are artists fucked up human beings? I'm going to tell you now. I think yes, and we'll leave it there.
We definitely got to get to that. The first Kendrick topic can be super quick and it's not even, it's about the Super Bowl performance, but it's more so about like all the conversation that it created afterwards. And I've been on record on this podcast as saying, like, I can respect and appreciate Kendrick's talent, but he's not the first artist that I go to when I want to listen to music. I appreciate the art form. I appreciate the symbolism and everything that he puts into his music, the storytelling. And I think that's the piece that I want up and coming artists to kind of take from this. Like, it's obvious that Kendrick puts a lot of thought into what he does, a lot of time, a lot of thought, and it's creating conversations that live beyond the performance, right? It's creating think pieces. And I know people are going to be like, well, I'm not Kendrick, I'm not that big. Like, but you can still do that. Like, you can still, the story that you're telling, if you put more thought into what you're doing, hopefully you can create some conversation pieces that people take away and are talking about even after listening or watching what you do. So really for me, that you guys might have something to add, but that's really what I wanted to communicate to up and coming artists is, you're trying to tell your story. And I think Kendrick does an amazing job at just planting seeds to the point where people are picking it. I don't even think he means, like, people are analyzing this performance to a point where I don't even think that he put some of these meanings in there. People are just saying that it means, oh, he put his left foot first, because when he back in the day, it's like, bro, he just put his left foot first. But I think people need to think a little bit more about their art so that conversations can start. Like, there can be some meaning behind it. Not every single song, but Kendrick is like the ultimate example of just storytelling and just creating conversations.
I love internet think pieces because I like when people think, whether I agree with you or not, as long as you're respectful with it. I like when people have to look up historical references and things like that, especially when it comes to our culture, just because Black culture is the predominant culture, but we're always considered minorities, even though we're the global majority, but we won't go into that. So I think it was cool to put a lot of things on Front Street, even if people aren't looking that deep. And I agree with you, Dame. I think that if you are determined to tell a great story, you'll get better as the story goes on. Like, when an author writes a book, and I think this is something like practice-wise that people don't realize, when an author is writing a book, they know typically motifs and characters, and they know the outcome, but it's writing itself as you practice writing, right? So, like, that's the same thing with an artist. Like, Kendrick, when he was K-Dot, was already an incredible storyteller, but he was not Kendrick Lamar that we see today. And so that had to be developed, that had to be honed. He has Dave Free in his camp as his creative director, who's an incredible storyteller. The guy who did his lighting design, I was reading about that, also an incredible storyteller. And they were going like deep into historical references. So I want to highlight, and there's a woman on his team who was doing a lot of research and was inserting different things. So I want to highlight that it doesn't, like, when you see something like that, clearly it's a team, but it's an enhancement of something that has been maturing for literally decades. And so even for myself, like when I'm creating as a creator, things that I've been doing, there's a line through that's been developing for over a decade, and it's getting honed, it's getting more mature. But if you look at all my businesses and all my companies, and this is what I was telling some of my interns last night, it all aligns with a thought process, a theme, and a story that I'm telling about my life, my beliefs, and what I'm trying to solve in the world at large. And even though I didn't have it as concise, I didn't know how to describe it like I do now, I didn't have it branded as well, there was no marketing behind it. These were things that were intuitive and real to me, and then I just kept developing them. So artists, like, yeah, you're not as big as Kendrick. You probably won't be, because he's one of the artists of the era, and he's cementing himself as a great beyond greats. But I would say, make sure that you're intentional about the story you're telling and about the themes that you're using and where you want to go with this, versus just saying, I made a cool song.
Obviously that, part of what he created in these conversations split along, I would say, generation lines, obviously racial lines, like just the, I'm still pretty tapped in with a lot of different folks. And there's a particular chat group that I have, my business school chat group. And there's a cat in there that there's a white dude, black dude. We typically talk about politics, race, things like that. Stuff
Y'all are really close, because that's wild.
No, but what would your reaction be to somebody calling Kendrick a niche artist?
I just wouldn't respond. There's like such a chasm to like in between the thought processes that I have and clearly what that person thinks. And I'm like, there's no point in me wasting my breath here.
Yeah, the conversations after this, I just think it's interesting. I try not to get too riled up about and too caught up with especially some of the racial dynamics. But yeah, it's wild.
Oh, like your man Ray Daniels. That was an
Ray needs to what did Ray say?
That Drake is Canadian and Jewish, and therefore I don't want to get into it.
Oh, he's the ultimate cheat code. That's what he said on the.
Yeah, well, it was more than that.
Yeah, I don't mind getting into it. I mean, I didn't see anything.
Drake is our next topic. We could talk about it.
I don't see. Did you? I mean, we probably should have pulled that clip up. There's a lot of things I disagree with Ray about. That is probably not one of them, to be honest. There's not too much that he said in there that I disagreed with.
And before anybody comes with that A-S word, that's not what this is. But imagine being Jewish, but being able to say the N-word. How is that not a cheat code? Do you know what I'm saying? You get to be a part of, again, the predominant culture, which is Black culture, which is street culture, which is the linguistics of our people. But then you get the benefits of being a part of a Jewish community. And you're Canadian, if you know about Canada.
Yeah, it looked like Payne.
I don't know about Canada enough to. I don't know.
Doesn't seem like Payne doesn't want to travel down this road, so we can course correct. But Payne, you wanted to talk about mustard in relation to Kendrick, or I forget the actual topic.
Yeah, it was in relation to Kendrick. I don't know if you want to touch on it since we're on Drake and we're trying to be controversial or at least not shy from the controversy. There is a lot of talk, and this is quick. There is a lot of speculation about Spotify retaliating against Drake for his legal accusations against Spotify. And I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just reading the information. One super fan of Drake's posted Drake Spotify stats. I'll just share the screen. You can tell me what you think about it. But, this woman has a clear bias. Drake is her background image on her profile. But if Drake's Spotify streams are 109 billion and his monthly listeners are 77.9 million, whereas Kendrick's total streams are 43 billion and his monthly listeners are 100 million. She's saying it's not making sense. It might not be. A lot of people are speculating that it's either bots or it's Spotify suppressing the numbers. And then they get into some other.
No, beloved, he just performed at the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Super Bowl. And it was the most viewed live performance in the history of America, at least. I don't know if it's the world. But that's kind of crazy to make that assumption. Cause now that we're saying this, I'm looking up this Billboard article that I was reading the other day about how his numbers continue to surge. Typically it's the first week they surge after the Super Bowl, and then they stay steady and you may see a midweek spike the second week when everybody's watching the video back, and then it kind of starts to degrade. But they're saying Kendrick is if I'm not mistaken what this article is saying, Kendrick is on trend to keep going up, potentially all the way through March. So that's crazy. She is a Drake stan, but outside of bias, come on, that's crazy.
It looks like she's confusing the metrics, right? Monthly listeners is changes every month, right? Because it's your monthly listeners. It looked like she was taking Kendrick and Drake's all-time streaming numbers, because I think 109 billion is all time, right? So let's just say, all of those streams happened last year. That has nothing to do with the monthly listeners today. Typically you just find a lot of ignorance amongst, people in general, but especially the music industry, and that's why we have this podcast. So she's just confusing metrics,
But I think she is also saying what number he is in the world as far as most streamed artists, because that is consistently updated. So I think that's why she felt justified. She just added the other number, I think, to to further conflate. But she was saying overall streams, what number streamed he is in the world right now, plus monthly listeners. And that's where you see the difference.
Well, even what is time frame for most streamed in the world? Like, is that just is that just cumulative over the course?
Yeah, because it's such a new metric compared to sales, radio play, that kind of thing that's been around for a century.
It's like monthly though, they update.
Yeah, because I don't think it's just like adding, every month. There has to be a period of time that's captured.
I think it's cumulative, but that's just me.
No, because it's like when when Taylor Swift, I just was listening to another music podcast talk about this. When Taylor Swift drops, then she'll be back at number 1 or number 2 or whatever, like within a couple of days. So it's like, it's pretty up to date, because it's like, I think they do that as almost a way to indicate that they're like quicker than the charts. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's like almost like a shot, not a shot, but it's like, if you're looking at Billboard, you can see who's the top in the world right now. You got to wait till next week to see who's number 1 on Billboard. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, because someone can be the top of Billboard for a month and then completely disappear and still not even crack the top 100 of all time highest streamed artists. But yeah, I mean, the fan dialogue, I stay away from it. I think it's okay for someone to just say, hey, I like Drake better, or hey, I like Kendrick better. And that's that. I can't explain why. That's just my preference. It is what it is. I don't need to speak on all these intricacies and all of, because everyone comes up with theories and they just want to argue online, and they're just making shit up. And that's where I lose all hope in humanity when I see these conversations, because it's like they're arguing who's more underground, just dumb shit where I'm like, they're both signed to the same label. Come on, guys. So whatever. And then there are the conspiracy. I think this is more interesting. The conspiracy theories were like, this is all just a marketing ploy, which I doubt, but that's a more interesting rabbit hole to go down than this other.
In marketing, they try not to make the person they're marketing lose, though. So it could be a marketing ploy for Kendrick, but not for Drake, because
yeah, that's what they're saying. But then again, Drake's album comes out and breaks Kendrick's streaming record right away. So maybe.
Oh, did it? I haven't really heard much about it. I think my side of the internet isn't talking about it. I will say that I'm on this Billboard article, and it says he's got, I think it's 10. Oh, he has 5 of the top 10 charting songs on Billboard right now. And Not Like Us is number 1 again.
Well, I was impressed that, obviously Drake is a huge artist, but I was impressed that it still did 250,000 this week. Not that I'm super into the numbers like that, but what I'm think you're going to see is a huge drop off from, I think people are just curious of like what he's going to next. And obviously he's still going to have a lot of fans, but I think you're going to see a huge drop off from first week to second week, especially because the reviews that I've seen are very negative about this project, that the music isn't that good. But ultimately, like, I don't think you're going to see Spotify do anything to sabotage Drake or see the labels do anything to sabotage Drake. But what you might see is just not as much support, is the extra push that he once got, because he's basically, suing everybody, telling people that everybody's against him. And it's probably creating some kind of sentiment within either the label or Spotify. It's like, all right, we're not going to give you what you used to get because you're complaining about it. So, but I don't think that would be like anybody looking to sabotage Drake. Is just pulling back from the support package that he always got.
But when you've been supported and that support is like reneged, you know what I'm saying? Folks will be like, you're trying to sabotage me. I've had an artist, make a similar claim, and it's like, no, beloved, I'm not spending my energy, time, and effort. And I'm not saying this isn't happening. I'm just saying from my experience, I'm not spending extra energy trying to stop you. I'm just going to remove the blessing of being around you and what I can do for you from you. I don't have enough time. And that's the thing. Folks don't really understand. This is like the term golden handcuffs in the corporate world. You don't understand how much you're benefited by the entities around you until they don't benefit benefit you anymore. So if you've been benefited year over year for literally 2 decades or a decade and a half, year over year, the support has grown, and naturally so. He's made incredible music over the years. Like I had like about a decade between me liking Drake. I loved some of his early stuff, and then I didn't like him again until Better Yet, Hurry Up, Nevermind. And that joint, you know what I'm saying? It's like every year he's getting bigger and bigger, doing bigger and bigger stuff. Even the festival announcement he just made, he's performing as 3 different versions of Drake on each night as the headliner. That doesn't happen if you're not Drake after what just happened. You know what I'm saying? Like after I don't want to name artists, but after a lot of artists have battled, they didn't get bigger massive opportunities. So it's still evident that Drake is Drake. I just don't think that he's going to be in as many people's good graces anymore, and he's receiving the repercussions of that. I do think that there are bigger things at play, so I don't want to say he's crying wolf. I'm not saying that at all. There's too many things that indicate that he is kind of getting a really hard backhand slap, but I feel like a lot of it feels self-imposed. It's almost like when you feel like you're invincible, then it's like, okay, well, let's see what's going on. And I know there's a specific community of people that we might or might have not mentioned already that don't take kindly to you backtracking on the support that they've given you. And so because it is a big community, you can receive repercussions that you would never anticipate because you didn't know what was at play before.
Let's talk about a Drake diss track. I don't really want to talk about a Drake diss track, but I did see an interesting stat out there. This is appealing to me because I'm a producer and it's relatable. According to reports, I'm using Google AI because this is what comes up when there aren't official articles. According to reports, producer Mustard sent Kendrick Lamar a large number of beats, with some sources stating that he would send 50 to 60 beats or even 5 to 10 beats a day for a significant period, including before their hit song Not Like Us was created, essentially sending a consistent stream of beats over a long time. And that I've seen quotes where Mustard's saying Not Like Us is his biggest song ever. And so to send that many beats consistently before that hit is created, and not to say Mustard's not all over that project, he's got a lot of beats on there, but Not Like Us is clearly the hit. So the shoot your shot method of persistence is really popular nowadays. And I understand why, because if you run into an artist and you're a producer, shoot your shot, try to get them beats, try to get them in the studio. When there's a rapper in my city, I've done this before, I'll book a studio space and say, hey, what are you doing after this? Let's get in the studio. Rather than just saying, hey, let me give you beats. I'm trying to actually create an environment that makes sense for them to actually want to be in. But at very least, I could get food and have a session at my house and maybe demo records or get contact info, that kind of thing. So I'm going to shoot my shot in those scenarios. A lot of people get discouraged when these attempts don't work the first, second, third, fourth time, and they just give up. So I know we're going to talk about 50 Cent in a bit, but I used to go to New York all the time. I went many, many times. I went to G-Unit many times because G-Unit kind of had an open door policy when it came to producers, which was amazing. I met 50. I met the A&Rs. I met Lloyd Banks. I worked with Renee, the radio guy, because I was doing radio at the same time. Worked with Tony G, worked with Dre. And it was Dre McKenzie, shout out to him, who said, I'm going to get you a record with 50. I don't know when, but it's going to happen. And it took 2 years. But I was there regardless. I was putting beats together regardless. It wasn't so much emailing, it was physical media back then. But persistence did pay off in that case. Now, the concern is that when we promote shoot your shot culture and persistence, people aren't well adjusted. We're going to talk about mental health shortly. There's a difference between being persistent, shooting your shot, and crossing boundaries. And I think that's when things get ugly, because it's the difference between taking rejection productively and gracefully and harassment. And a lot of people just don't know and don't care to know the difference. It's almost as though there's an implication, if you're not a mentally healthy person, there's an implication that shoot your shot culture actually discourages accepting rejection, where it's like, nah, fuck that. If they say no, don't accept that. And it's like, that's a little dangerous. And it's so nuanced because rejection itself can be nuanced. A lot of people won't tell you flat out no, just because, if they did, they know they might get an ugly reaction from poorly adjusted people. But I've told people no, and then they don't stop. And then I block them, and then they send me emails and I block the emails. Then they find me on Instagram, then I block them on Instagram. Then they make a video about me on YouTube. So I personally think shoot your shot, especially producers. Like if you're sending beats out to people all the time and it's just, maybe that's just not the right beat. Cause a lot of people will say, oh, just keep sending. And you're like, man, I don't want to do that. It's discouraging, but like I said, it's 2 years to get a record with 50 Cent on my end. It helps to ask questions. Sometimes they don't have good feedback for you. I think that's a super frustrating part of being a producer when someone's just like, nah, I need a hit. Okay, I don't know what that means. It's kind of like you have to stop listening to the A&Rs and the descriptions of the people because they don't know what the hell they're talking about 90% of the time. And you just have to listen to the artist and then listen to your own artistic spirit and try new stuff. Try the stuff that you think, because like I've worked with artists that have had a sound and the A&R is like, they want to switch their sound. They want to do a 180. I'm like, no, they don't. They're like, yeah. They want to go. There was this one group that makes, this is probably too revealing. There was one group that makes strip club anthems and the A&R told me they want to go in a different direction. They want to do rock. And I'm like, no, they don't. So my stupid ass is working on these rock beats. Their album comes out. It's strip club anthems. So I'm like, man, I'm never listening to an A&R saying that the artist is doing a 180 again. Because I swear the only time I heard that actually happening was when Lil Wayne put out the rock album. No other time has an artist done that much of a 180.
I mean, Lil Yachty kind of put out a jazz album, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, no, he did. But he went directly to those producers. It wasn't it was a very different kind of situation, a different creative process. So I think we should be having more, to tie it back to mental health. When we're talking about shooting your shot, I think just in general, it would be helpful to have more conversations about what healthy interactions are and what boundaries are, how to respect them, how to set your own, and then also to directly confront unhealthy interactions in the context of networking. Because if we don't have those conversations, a lot of people just won't know. Or if a person is getting unhinged mentally, no one's there to check them. People are just like, shoot your shot. If they reject you, fuck them, shoot your shot. And that affects people. I don't think we really fully understand how profoundly these conversations being had on the internet affect people.
Yeah, I think I want to add a counterweight to that. I agree, keep shooting your shot. When I was reading the articles about how many songs Mustard submitted to Kendrick, I was actually like really comforted, but I'm like, this is the obsession that we were talking about last week. Like he's a great, like this isn't Mustard was plucked from obscurity. Mustard is a platinum selling, multi-millionaire, Billboard #1 hit producing producer for decades. DJ Mustard was one of my favorite West Coast DJs when Atlanta was in its second heyday, when I was like early college, like mid-20s. Mustard has been killing it for a long time. So a note is Mustard had a relationship with Kendrick. So that's why he could keep sending, because I heard him allude to it on a podcast or an interview. I haven't heard him say that he did, because I've seen 30 beats. Some said 50. And then like you said on Google, it says it could have been 5 some days. But regardless, I know apparently he sent hundreds, and he alluded to the fact that Kendrick was like, yo, just keep sending me stuff. A lot of people know artists, especially when they're trying to record, just want to hear a ton of shit. Like they may say they're doing a 180 because I heard this one record and they're searching for this inspiration. And then after 200 tracks, they're like, fuck it. Let's go back to what we, you know what I'm saying? So that's probably what happened with Pain. Or they already had that in the tuck and they couldn't really get a project that sounded good. But yeah, I think persistence, my counterpoint is persistence is super necessary in this industry in general. But I have people, I still manage one artist email. It's their booking email. And it's not management. It's not beats. This artist is not even a rapper. I have so many producers sending rap beats, like, sent you this beat, I just be blocking them. Block. Cause it's like, if you're sending me 10 beats every week and that's never been requested, you got this booking email off of something and now you're spamming it. No, like you've got to be persistent, but you can't be desperate. And I think that a lot of times, the stupidity or lack of business acumen comes out of desperation, and like hoping that they're going to have this moment, like this, like, what do you call it? Like, you know, like this Phoenix moment where you're like, I'm rising above the ashes. Life has been rough, but now I'm a #1 Billboard producer. Like, cool, maybe, but the likelihood is super low. And what you're trying to do to get there is pissing off the people that could help you. So I would say you have to really be mindful. I think you really have to have relationships. That's what you're speaking to, Kane. You got a relationship. You named multiple people's names at G Unit, you know, and I think about the difference between me reaching out to people when I first started in the industry and had just seen them at an event and scrubbed the internet for their email versus now when Dame is like, oh, let me put you in a group chat with da-da-da. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's a way different, and you don't have to try so hard. When Mustard was sending beats to Kendrick, I guarantee you Kendrick wasn't annoyed. If somebody's feeling annoyed, and this is what Payne is saying, if somebody's giving you the feedback of like, no, or like, I don't want this, and you keep being persistent, you actually are being really aggressive, and it's signaling something way different than what you think.
Well, and it's dumb as shit because why? All right, so like me, people send me beats all the time. And I'm like, who do you think I am? Hey, yeah, whatever, man. Yeah. Stop being a bitch.
The crazy thing is I feel like they're hoping that you'll just take the beat, put your name on it, or like change up the snare and then pitch it. And then it becomes a #1. And they're like, yeah, DJ Payne put me on. And then like a year later, they're going to sue you for taking their beat and and they're going to be like, hey, he claimed that this was his beat, but I made 100% of it. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just like, What did you think the outcome was going to be? Because in no world is this going to turn out the way that both of y'all are going to enjoy.
Though, like, can we just have more conversations about positive networking interactions so that people don't just make up their own rules? You know, the internet, and then people blame the COVID lockdowns for this, but like people's social intelligence, their EQs are at an all-time low, I would guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of what you guys just mentioned, but I also think people are just scrubbing the internet for like emails. They're not even looking to see like what this person actually does. So they're taking a mass approach to things. They're just like shotgun. If anybody responds, great. And then they feel like they were productive that day, even though they might have sent 1,000 DMs to people they don't know, don't get any responses, and they feel like they're grinding. You know, I think this is a lot of what me and Erinn will be talking about on the panel at South by Southwest, because this is a people business and the relationships are super important. And I've said many times, like, you just can't be weird. You have to learn how to communicate with people. You have to have good control of your communication. You have to understand like how your communication is being received. And that's a lot of what Payne was just talking about with emotional intelligence. And, you know, I have a course that's still probably on Zoo Labs around networking. But it's a skill that you have to work on, and you have to get very good at it. I feel like I have a pretty solid network at this point, but I started early and I understood the importance of relationships. So even prior to my music career, you know, just understanding how to move, how to communicate, how to get feedback, how to request feedback, super important. But we've been on this one for a minute. I want to go to our artist Fucked Up Humans. Let's play that video. And let's talk about that really quick, because it's part of this. I feel like it's part of, you know, the lack of emotional intelligence mixed with some other issues. And so it'll be an interesting combo.
I'm going to prove to you why there's a lot of artists that are really just fucked up human beings. Listen to any interview you want. I'm talking about Vlad, Breakfast Club, Big Boy, anything that you want. I'm just making it up. Any pod that y'all want, whatever, right? Listen to it. $1 million worth of game. Noriega, whatever, right? Drink Champs. and watch artists, your favorite artists, be like, yeah, so I was with my man in the studio, or yo, I went down and linked my homeboy, yo, my homegirl. They know that they have the biggest platform at the moment. And they'll be like, yeah, so I was with my man in the studio. You could just literally be like, yo, when I was with DJ Kevin,
that's it.
When I was with Mike, the producer, when I was with Stacy, my publicist, they won't do it. They just act like, yeah, so I was with my man. That is a sign that artists they're so, artists, y'all gotta do better. You're so selfishly driven. Watch every producer, songwriter, manager, watch they all repost this because they're like, artists, just say their name.
And sometimes the artists won't even say they were with anybody. They'll just tell you the result of the situation, and it'll seem like they were completely alone.
Yeah, I think obviously sometimes this is intentional. Sometimes it's not intentional. I'll give some artists that. I'm not gonna judge an artist off of one interview or a couple of interviews in which they don't mention someone's name. Sometimes
I am.
But not
because when your brain remembers as you're telling the story, the person's name and face comes to your mind. It's an intentional omission. If you're remembering a story, you see the person.
No, but I think that there's a difference between like an artist not wanting people to win, so that's why they do it, versus like they're so wrapped up in themselves that they're not even mindful that could be a win for the person on their team.
Yeah, I think they're both egregious.
They are.
Because artists are always, until they got to that point, they were just like, man, somebody needs to remember me. Somebody needs to think about me. Somebody needs to put me on. That's the nature of artists. So when you get to that point, if you're not mindful of the thing that you actually needed, that means that you're a leech instead of a contributor to the ecosystem, because you only wanted yours until you could think about somebody else.
I agree, and I think it's so important for people to hear that perspective, Erinn, because I don't think it's top of mind because a lot of we're saying that artists are narcissistic. A lot of artists are narcissistic, selfish. I think they need to be introduced to that idea more. So I think more artists will be open to or remember to shout out, their collaborators or the people that are supporting them. I just did the interview with Six, Logic's producer, and that's one thing that he shows so much love back to Logic for, because Logic was always instilling, hyping him up and instilling a trust in that bond. Because one of the questions that I had for him was like, if you're a producer and you go the route of locking in with one artist, you're taking a huge risk. Because at any point, this artist could be like, I'm going in a different direction, or I've gotten to this point now and I want Hit Boy's beats. I want to work with Dre or whoever, because now I have access to them. Logic could have easily done that. He didn't, but he presented an opportunity for, like, once he got signed to Def Jam, he didn't just say, hey, yeah, I'm still locked in with you, but he gave him an opportunity to still compete. He's like, look, I'm still going to take the best beat, but you're my boy, and we've built to this point. Even though I'm in sessions with Hit Boy, I want you. This is your chance to level up. So what Logic did was really dope, and I hope that more artists do this for the people that are supporting them, whether it's a manager, whether it's a producer, because sometimes artists do just say, fuck it, I'm here now. I'm gonna go in a different direction, and they shit on everybody that they got them to that point.
I think it's almost like, even in saying this, so many people are like, nah, I would never leave my bro. I've heard it time and time again. So you have to be cognizant of, this isn't just how you feel right now. It's when the lights come on, you get blind and you forget everybody who's around you. That's what happens. It's like I've seen it so many times in so many genres. I'm not just talking about artists that I've worked with. I don't want people to think, oh, Erinn's just hurt. That's why she doesn't manage anymore. Listen, I've spent a shit ton of money on therapy. I've moved through the pain. I'm telling you, all of the best and brightest managers leave the industry because of this. And I don't want credit. I don't want you to be shouting my name out for me to have more emails of terrible rappers asking me to manage them. That's not what this is even about. This is about me watching people build people up, invest their time, energy, money, let bros sleep on their couch, talking people through marital issues in the middle of the night so they don't have to leave tour. Like, I've seen people invest so deeply in the talented individuals in their community, and the moment that it's slightly inconvenient, mum's the word. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm the only time that I don't, and I'm very intentional when I don't mention people, is because they probably fucked me over. I always say when I do interviews, people are like, oh, who was that? I'm no free promo, because I'm probably doing better than them if I've left the situation by now, respectfully. But it's like, I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep going because that's just in my nature. Again, I'm obsessed. And my desire to be great here has nothing to do with my ego and everything to do with my understanding that my purpose helps unlock other people's purpose. So if I slow down or if I get in my own way, I'm fucking up the future of a lot of people who could be helped by what I have to offer. So for me, it doesn't matter if you give me credit, but I'm looking at a lot of people who need their next meal, who are even when I needed my next meal, I was like, that's cool. My meals don't come from you. They come from above. But there's a lot of people who could benefit from somebody spotlighting them. And then even what it says to other artists. If it becomes cool to recognize the people around you, that changes the trajectory, that changes the energy. Everybody's like, oh, let me shout out this person. Let me shout out this person. I was watching Lil Yachty on Club Shay Shay. He's talking about this comedian who essentially put him on. I have no idea who the comedian is. They spend 10 minutes talking about bro, and he never mentions him. And then Shannon Sharp says, have you ever broken him off? And Yachty looks at him. He was like, nah, almost like he's like offended. And he's like, I don't even know how to get in touch with bro. And Shannon goes, he knows how to get in touch with you though. And so then Shannon looks at the camera and says, he got something coming for you after this. And so Yachty looks at Shannon almost like, damn, Unc, you put me out here like that. But Shannon Sharp's like, you are literally... The interview portion was Yachty talking about how many millions he's wasted on toys. And he was like, I'm good. It was just a learning lesson. But he was like, I've probably blown. He was talking about like tens of millions of dollars that he's wasted on stuff that he's never opened or utilized. He said he has too many watches that are over 100K. You're sitting there and then you're mad that Shannon called you out to toss, bro, 10, 15, 20K would change his life. You sneezed that out your pocket yesterday. You know what I'm saying? It's like he was talking about how his card has never been declined since he was 18. And I just think I was sitting there in awe that the name never came up, even because Shannon didn't know his name, I think, or he was trying to decide if he should say it. Like, he's like, oh, are y'all good? And he was like, oh, I don't even know, bro. Like, da da da. And I just think about how selfish that is. You're talking about how well off you are. Like, how much money, how many millions you've blown, and you're like, oh, I've never thought about breaking off the dude who you're saying, had he not posted me, I wouldn't have gotten signed. I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be Lil Boat. I think it's wild, but that's the nature of artists. Are artists fucked up people? Yes. Prove me wrong. There's an exception to every rule
right now.
But it's fucked up. Like, there's so many in every genre, I don't care what Muslim, Buddhist, Christian I've worked with, I've seen it. The artists are fucked up people. There are exceptions to every rule, but it's something about when the artist mentality meets the spotlight, that shit sizzles y'all's brains and sears your heart, and I don't fuck with it.
You know, artists, let this be a lesson for artists. If you haven't had success yet, just implant this now. Like, it's so important to lift up everyone on your team. If you have somebody that's amazing at doing merchandise and they're contributing to helping you tell your story, make sure you let your fans know who that is. Speaking of which, I met an artist a couple of weeks ago named Yali, who makes amazing music, and he actually gave me this sweatshirt right here, this Slept On. This is his brand. But I just thought it was a good time to shout him out. But it's so important. I mean, we try to do that. That's what we're trying to do with this new creator program that Jai and I are putting together. You know, it doesn't take anything away from you to support your team. And a lot of times you're probably not compensating them enough financially. Most of the time you're not compensating them enough financially. So the least you can do is help them make some progress in the lane that they want to win at, right? Because if they can get more, if it's a stylist and they can get more clients, or if it's a producer, or they can get more beats to other producers, let people know who's helping you get to the next level. Because you're probably not paying them enough.
That's a good point. And I'm not going to belabor this, but reciprocity. Artists are like, how can everybody in my camp tilt more into me and give me more? That's just the way that you think. You're like, oh, y'all are my team, even if it's, whatever. But they never turn around and say, how can I give my team more? Because then their thought is, I'm paying you. You're never going to be able to pay your team to care. Like they care about you because either they're a good person or they see potential, whatever. But there's not enough bread being broken for the hours being spent until you get to a certain level. And at that point, it's like your ego is probably so big that they don't want to be around you anyways. So they have this big team to insulate themselves from, day-to-day managers, all that. So if you're not thinking reciprocally about the people who are around you, have you ever stopped to be like, what does my manager want in life? Probably not. Do you know I would know about people's whole extended families, where they came from, where their aunties and uncles were in Africa, Mexico. I'm trying to work with nonprofits that speak to their, you know what I'm saying? And they don't even know I have two brothers. I'm a middle child. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't know shit about me. But they're like, yeah. Me and my manager are friends. We're not friends. You don't know anything about me. I care about you. You want what I have to offer you. Like, just for a moment, have you ever thought, what does my producer want? Maybe he doesn't want to make me more beats. Maybe he's not trying to be a Billboard chart topping producer. What does he want? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, or she want? Like, I think there should be more thoughts about the people on your team and how you can help them. And that's a level of reciprocity that will take you far because you're thinking from a perspective of a community builder versus a leech.
Yeah. The comedian is Sensei LaFox, and looks like he abandoned YouTube years ago. I don't know why, but he's on Instagram. So that's who it is. And I had to do some digging because there were all these articles, even in Wikipedia, they just mentioned a comedy video that went viral.
What's his name?
Sensei LaFox. SenseILEFOX. So shout out to him.
Thank you.
Let's try to get to one more topic quickly. What do we have on that list? Should we do does 50 Cent need therapy? I know there's I think Erinn is going to say we all need therapy.
I'm going to agree.
I already know that. But
especially when you've been shot 9 times, you know what I'm saying?
No, for sure. I mean, there's a lot
of picture and everything. Oh man,
no, it's AI. I mean, that's picture is AI.
Okay, I really thought they had
hilarious. But it's hilarious though.
I'm not even showing that.
There's a shitload of trauma in this industry, right? We know that. It comes from especially artists. A lot of the creations come from a lot of pain. People put it in their music. So I think we can all agree that therapy would be a good thing. I tried to get artists on my label therapy that was unsuccessful. But I just think 50 definitely needs therapy, but 50 to me is hilarious. He did overstep, in my opinion. I know that there's some actual beef rooted in the Irv Gotti thing, but when Irv Gotti passed away and he posted that picture with the tombstone next to it, I thought that was out of pocket. But, I don't know. You don't know what these people had really real beef where their lives were on the line. So that's a whole lane that I can't even speak to. I'm not in that situation, so I don't know. And I'm not even, a part of the street culture or anything like that. So I don't really know. From my perspective, if somebody passes away, you should take your foot off the gas for sure. 50 didn't do that. But I could
I think
respect
it's very in line with his personality, but I didn't know that happened. I'm not somebody who likes to be around somebody who's always like making fun of or like joking about things. I think he's very successful, proof positive. He's just not my flavor of person. I think he's funny sometimes, but I don't follow him. It's just if something comes across my feed that doesn't, it's just he's very much a wild man.
I definitely follow him, and I think he's hilarious most of the time. I think he oversteps him, but that's who he is. 50 has always been who he is. So, I know that. So Joe Budden asked the question, and I think it was in response to what 50 did after Erinn Knight passed. And on Joe Budden's podcast, he said that 50 needs therapy. So 50 took that as an opportunity to now go at Joe Budden. And now I don't think he's going to take his foot off the gas. Just don't mess with 50, man. Don't get on unless you're
Now, this is my hot take on this. I feel like that could be Joe's marketing ploy. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about marketing ploys, and Joe knows how to do it. Joe is great at what he does. He's somebody else that I don't really follow. When he first came out with the Joe Budden podcast, when it was all three of them with Rory and Mal, I would watch it occasionally, but I always felt like Joe lacked integrity. Like that reeked in the way that he would present topics and the things. And then when they broke up, I was like, case confirmed, right? Because of the way that it all happened. So occasionally stuff comes across, but I think he's part of the purveyors of terrible business news just to make hot takes. So I don't watch him a ton, but Joe is incredible at keeping himself relevant now because he knows how to do it. And I think after being a successful artist and then kind of dropping into obscurity as a rapper, when he came out as a content creator and as a podcaster and on Complex, I think he was like, I'm never giving this back up. You know what I'm saying? And so I could see it. Like, he knows 50 Cent. 50 Cent is a media machine. Like, 50 is touching the masses, whether he's calling the Breakfast Club unannounced, whether he's tweeting or posting on Instagram, or whether he's on his own podcast or an interview, or whether he's sneak dissing in one of his TV shows. You know what I'm saying? I feel like there's sneak disses in his TV shows that we'll never understand because 50 is petty like that. So I think Joe is keeping himself relevant. Like, why would he matter if he's in the line of fire from 50 Cent when more people are coming to his show? That's when he came for DDG. He's like, I don't even know who DDG is. He knows that he does know that DDG is one of the most subscribed YouTubers in the world. DDG has multiple channels. Even his mom has a ton of subscribers. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what you're doing when you're coming for people like this. And I think Joe's too calculated. I think it's a marketing ploy.
I feel like
50 Cent needs therapy is like saying we all need water.
But okay. I think Joe's style of just kind of off the cuff speaking allows for, I think that in and of itself is calculated, but it's like calculated uncalculatedness in the sense of he doesn't fear any sort of consequences for anything he says. And that in and of itself is him being calculated.
And I do think it's possible that Joe sometimes, I don't really know. I know who DDG is. I know he's successful, but I don't know that streaming world like that.
Joe didn't know what Five Below was. Did you see that episode? He had no idea what that shop was. So I believe he had no idea. Why would he be watching?
Five Below is different than DDG. I agree. I'm not saying understanding how in depth DDG's audience is, but it was like you're talking about Halle and DDG having a relationship or breaking up, and you're like, I just don't believe that Joe has no journalistic integrity. I don't think he's shooting from the hip all the time. I'm sure that they research stuff a little bit. So, right. Even if he doesn't know who he is and what he does, he's got 20 million here, 5 million here, 10 million cumulatively across 3 of his channels. I don't know who DDG is. That's a quick way to be like, all right, I'm going to get at least 1 million views on this clip because Gen Z can't let shit go. They don't have any understanding of how not to comment on somebody who is just coming for them. So he knows that, like, let me come for a Gen Zer.
But we do live in in a very fragmented society. We all live in our bubbles. You know, some people's bubbles are bigger than others. And that, you know, goes back to, you know, me asking you guys what you would think if someone said that Kendrick was a niche artist. It's kind of
in return, I would say, is John Mayer a niche artist to you? I just want to get your scope, and then I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna stop talking.
That's that dumbass fan shit, though.
Yeah. No, it was genuine. I think, you know, there is a huge population in this country that didn't know who Kendrick was, or might have just heard his name. But there's a lot of big artists that I might have heard their name, but I don't know what they do. Like, especially country artists. I don't listen to country, but I know it's a huge world. So when you start saying people who's big, like Kirk Whalum, that's somebody huge, right?
I guess.
Did I even say his name right?
Did you make that name up?
No, that's right.
Right? Isn't that his name?
There's a guy named, I think, okay.
I'm about to look it up. I'm sure he's huge.
So.
No, that's not Kirk Whalum. That's somebody else.
You're probably talking about Morgan Wallen. Yeah. So I didn't want to say his name. That's what I was like, there is a guy named Kirk something, but he's not.
No, but Dame's talking about the guy that gets drunk. And
Morgan Wallen, who screams racial slurs and then continues to soar to number one for sure.
Let me see how big he is.
He's massive, and here's the wild thing. He's going viral currently on TikTok because of trail riders remixing him. And if I don't know if y'all know about trail rides, okay, because I'm very invested in country culture, but especially Black country culture. Literally this weekend I'm in Austin because we have an event called Yeehaw. It's a celebration of Black country culture. Trail rides are historically Black. Trail rides are only Black, even currently. It's what happens in Louisiana. It's like, you know, you just go down the trail. You're popped up in the woods and you're having a party in the woods, basically, right? Trail rides. It's a whole other culture. Brandon could speak to it better. He's from Louisiana. But the trail riders do line dances, not quite like country line dances. It's like saucy Black line dances, but to trail riding music, which is a fusion of like soul and country. They have this remix of one of Morgan Wallen's songs, Morgan. I don't know how to say his last name because people say Wallen and they say Whalen and I don't care. But it's going like dumb. Like it just re-hit the charts again because Black people are dancing to it. So it's like, I can't get away from this dude because he's a part of the culture, but yeah, he's super racist.
But none of us would be dumb enough,
racist.
You know, least of all Dame, to call him a niche artist.
Right.
That's just because he's white though. You don't call white people niche. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. No,
I'm saying like culturally, like you're just going to be like, oh, you don't know who they could have 10,000 followers and be like, oh, they're super influential or they're on the come up, but you're not going to call a white artist niche. So the largest Black hip hop artist right now, currently, you're going to say he's niche because you don't listen to hip hop. But at my hot Pilates classes with nothing but effing soccer moms, all we're listening to is hip hop music. So, and white culture is the majority culture in America. It has to be consumed majorly by white people in order for Kendrick Lamar to be that big of an artist. So it's like to say he's a niche artist is almost like a backhanded, ignorant way. I won't say it's not racist. I would say it's racially charged though for sure. And it's extremely ignorant because it has a lot of subtext that could infer something to the more sensitive people. It would be considered racism. To me, it's considered racially ignorant, but also I would say pretty layered. It feels, it feels a bit layered.
I just have to apologize for confusing two totally separate people on the side because I think Kirk Whalum is actually, he's a Black guy, number one, but I think he does like jazz music or like R&B, like jazz music. So confusing Kirk Whalum and Morgan Wallen, my apologies.
That was racist.
Very. Anyway, we should wrap it up. The point is, like, we all live in bubbles, try to get your bubble to be as big as possible so you don't say stupid shit. And because if your bubble is bigger, you're probably a more emotionally intelligent person. So just tying it back to some of the comments that Payne made about emotional intelligence earlier. Expand your bubble.
Kirk J is the guy that I was thinking of. He was on The Voice. He's a black country singer. So a lot of people know him because he was on The Voice, but I don't consider him a big artist. That's what I thought you were talking about.
No. So if you've gotten to this far in the podcast, the message today is expand your bubble as big as possible. Expand the world that you live in. It's a big world out there. There's a lot of stuff going on. So expand your bubble. This week, my win next week is going to be how I expanded my bubble in the next 7 days. So I'm going to report back, and hopefully I've done that.
Thank you for tuning in. Expand your musical bubble. Go on tolost.com. Use the code MEC for 3 free months of premium music distribution. Get your music on all the platforms. That's a great way to expand your bubble, because right now, if your music is sitting on a hard drive, that's not expansive. That's restrictive. So tolost.com, code MEC. We will be back next week, same time, same place on MEC. Peace.